And with that, welcome all. Thank you for your patience in the delay. We were making sure that our folks could join online in Zoom, and we're so happy to see their faces with us. Thank you. Well, everyone on Zoom and in the room, welcome back. We're so excited to be joining together again. And could we get a quick show of hands from folks who are able to lobby their members of Congress today? Woo! And I'm seeing some hands on Zoom too. And also from Zoom, are there other folks who have taken action today in other ways besides in-person lobby visits? Woo! Seeing some hands. And are there folks who are planning to do future lobby visits or other advocacy actions? Yes, this is what we love to see. Well, we have been having drop-by visits, sharing leave-behinds, calling our members of Congress, and we're going to hear all about that in just a few minutes. But we have something very important to do first, and that is the presentation of the Justice Award. The Justice Award is awarded every year by FCNL to a member of Congress who has advanced policies to create a more just society. Please welcome to the stage FCNL's General Secretary, Bridget Moix.
Thank you, friends. It's so good to be here with you all again. This will be my last time on the mic during the QPPI part. It's our closing panel for QPPI, and we move into annual meeting. And so before I present the award, I want to first say a huge thank you to all the staff and everyone who's made this part, all the lobbying that's happened and the work behind that and the panels and everything that's happened. Just an enormous gratitude to all those staff. And please stand up if you're staff and you've been part of this. All the staff that are in the room, please stand up. There are many more. I hope you've been meeting them and getting to know them. But I wanted to acknowledge and say thank you. Second, I want to thank you all, everyone who's been here, both for the lobbying and hard work that we've been through, but also because this has been very full. And I want to acknowledge how full it's been and that we haven't had a lot of time to pause. And I was reminded to slow down. It's a really helpful reminder. And we will be slowing down as we move into our annual meeting business and taking more space. But thank you for being so present and grounded with us through such a full few days. I hope it has been fueling you as well. You might have also wondered from the program last night, what happened with this Justice Award? Did they forget? They did not forget. I forgot. But they did not forget. And we want to give it the time and that it needs this moment in the closing panel because it is very important. And Representative, I haven't announced it yet, have I? Yeah. The Justice Award this year, FCNL's Justice Award, is being awarded to Representative Tom Cole from the 4th District of Oklahoma. He cannot be with us. You see his picture? And I'll say a few words of why we are honoring him with this award. He could not be with us. We'd hoped he would, then the House finished their business, they've left. He couldn't be with us, but his staff have already reached out and scheduled a meeting in a few weeks for us to actually present the award to him. So we're looking forward to that. The FCNL Justice Award recognizes a member of Congress who has shown outstanding commitment to advancing policies to create a more just society and country and honor all of humanity. Congressman Cole is a member of the Chickasaw Nation and represents the 4th District of Oklahoma. He was first elected to the House of Representatives in 2003. He serves as the chair of the Powerful Rules Committee, and he's also on the Appropriations Committee, which has been very important. And he has been, during this time of threats to cuts to so many programs, he's been opposing those additional cuts in that role he has on the Appropriations Committee. Mr. Cole has devoted himself to the protection of Native communities and committed himself to ensuring the U.S. government faces centuries of harmful policies and practices against Native Americans. Seeking to right relationships and honor the treaties, laws, and promises to tribes is of great concern of FCNL and our network, as you know. In particular, we are recognizing and applauding Congressman Cole's leadership in honoring and supporting the survivors, families, and communities of the Indian boarding school era. He is a lead sponsor of the Truth and Healing Commission on Indian Boarding Schools Policies Act, which, as you know, is a top legislative priority for FCNL, and also a deep need of reckoning for our own community as Quakers were involved in these schools and the cultural genocide that they perpetuated on Native communities. We are grateful for Congressman Cole's leadership and his relationship with FCNL for many years, and look forward to bringing him the award in December. Please honor and recognize Representative Cole for this leadership. Thank you.
I have been told that I'm tall, so I need to bring the mic up closer to my face. All right. Thank you, Bridget, and thank you, Susan. It's really been a truly rich time that we've spent together. We have a gentle reminder from our process observers to remember that while you're in the grand ballroom here in the plenary space, to wear a mask as a show of care for other folks in the room. So thank you so much to our process observers for calling us back to that commitment. So as we move into our final closing plenary of QPPI 2023, we will be hearing and celebrating stories from the lobby visits and virtual actions that folks took yesterday and today. And this session will be facilitated by absolute rock stars who are sitting before you. So please join me in welcoming them as I turn the mic over to FCNL's Deputy Director of Strategic Advocacy, Sarah Freeman-Woolbert.
Thank you, everybody. It has been so inspiring and powerful to be with you all for this event for QPPI. I have really just enjoyed hearing so much from each one of you about how your lobby visits went, how those conversations unfolded. A lot of folks came back really excited to tell us about how receptive the congressional staff were to their ask and how fired up they are to take action when they go back to their own home communities and districts. So we have a lot of stories and a lot of energizing that we want to do in this last hour of QPPI before lunch. But before I turn things over to our grassroots team, before we really talk about what comes next, I want to bring back someone really important to the stage, our lead lobbyist on peace building, Ursula, who did so much work to make this event possible. Let's give her a round of applause. And Ursula's going to share with us the impact we've had this past 3 days. Go ahead, Ursula. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will keep this brief. As another tall person, I will bring the mic up to me. I will keep this very brief. I just wanted to say thank you for your solidarity. Thank you for your accompaniment. Over the decade plus I have worked in peace building, you often feel very alone. And as you heard from our speakers over the last several days, it can be lonely work, working in peace building. As Bina reminded us yesterday, there are over 300 forgotten conflicts. Many of us might not have known until last night that Manipur has been under 60 years of military occupation. Many of us might not be following the news about the violence in Sudan as closely as we might follow the news of the violence in Ukraine. And all of you these last few days have sat with these peace builders and sat with these stories and taken them with you to your members of Congress and told those stories and lifted up their voices. Last night when I was, we were saying goodbye to Kuskundi and Bina and Vahe, I was telling Kuskundi, you know, we have over 100 lobby visits and we've got all these folks online taking action at home in the districts. And he said, thank you. Thank you for sharing our story. Thank you for talking about peace building. Thank you for the solidarity. And I just want to pass along that thanks and that gratitude because it feels a little less lonely 3 days later, having all of you supporting this, all of you talking about this and learning about these different conflicts and learning about these different programs. So thank you. And thank you to the advocacy teams who've been doing this all year as well. It has been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me to learn and to meet you and to spread the good word of peace building. So I just wanted to say thank you for the solidarity. Thank you for the accompaniment. And I hope this sparks in you continued advocacy for peace building and continued desire to learn about all of those forgotten conflicts. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ursula. And thank you again, all of you, for your lobbying on peace building. I know that many offices don't hear about this ask until we bring it. So it's so important that we've been doing this work. We're going to shift gears a little bit now for the next 45 minutes or so and talk about what comes next. How can we continue building momentum for a world where we're prioritizing peace and a world where we're really standing for a world free of war? And so we are asking folks, after you leave here from QPPI, when you go home, when you're back in district, to take 2 very specific actions. And our team's going to talk about these more. We're going to ask folks to take action calling on Congress to publicly support a ceasefire in Israel and Palestine, and to really amplify that call through drop-by visits, lobby visits, letters to the editor, making sure that we are making our voices heard at such an important time to call for a ceasefire. And we're also asking folks, if you haven't already, to connect with your local advocacy team. There are advocacy teams, almost 140 of them around the country in 47 states, who do this work year-round. They're meeting, and I'm preaching to the choir here because many of you are really part of this network, but to bring more folks into that work with you so that we're building momentum over an entire year to make sure that these asks are staying top of mind for congressional staff, and most importantly, that we're strengthening those relationships for the long-term work that we need to do to build a more peaceful world. And so I'm gonna have, in a moment, some grassroots stories. We're gonna hear from Hassan. There might be some music. But first, I want to introduce a really special, important member of our team, our new Director of Strategic Advocacy, Levita Davis, who's gonna talk to us a little bit about the power of the work you all have been doing over the past 3 days, and how inspiring it is that we can take this work forward together when we go home. So please welcome Levita.
Well, good afternoon, and as another fellow tall person, I'm going to pull the mic up. I just gotta say, you all are awesome. I mean, amazing. Just awesome. As a person that's been doing this work, community organizing, for over 2 decades, and I've seen campaigns and movements, everything from affordable housing to anti-hunger and poverty work, and I've done legislative advocacy, it is so clear to me how powerful and effective you all are on the Hill. How your advocacy here in DC and in district really does affect the needle and get things done. I am so proud and so excited to be here with you and partner and support you all as you fight for peace. And you're just amazing. I'm in awe of just the power. And this being my first annual meeting, QPPI, I'm just blown away at just how tenacious, how passionate you all are about the issues and the work. So just thank you for allowing me to be in the space and to be in partnership in the community with you all. Just thank you so much. There's the only thing I can just say is just thank you. But before we get into all of that, after getting all of that, I want to just get to the numbers of what we've done over the course of these days. We've had over 120 visits and drop-bys at this QPPI. And numbers are still coming in, so keep submitting those reports. We've had 50 calls from folks across the country, which is amazing. So you all are doing the work. You all are getting in front of your members of Congress. You're letting them know about peace building. You're also letting them know about the ceasefire action. You all are doing the work. And you need to continue to do the work. And of course, I don't need to tell you that. You know that. You've done that. You continue to do that. But as it gets hard, as you all continue to do the work, and it may get frustrating, I want you all to just take a breath and remember our time together right now. Remember your comrades, remember your colleagues in the room right now, the faces that you may see once a year, and just think about the power and the camaraderie and the community that you have, the many people around the country that are continuing to work hard for peace. Remember those folks. And continue to push on, continue to do the work, and continue to make it happen, because it's just too important. And I feel like I'm talking to the choir, and you all have ministered to me this weekend. You all have really shown me a lot. And I'm just in awe and just learned so much. So just continue to do the work, continue to make it happen. And certainly any way that we can be supportive, any way that we can be helpful, anything that we can do to support you all in making that happen, please continue to reach out, ask those questions. If it's around how to do a letter to the editor, making those phone calls, having difficulties getting that in-district meeting, please, please, please reach out. There was a hand up back there. How often should we ask, how often should we call for a ceasefire? Once a day, once a week? I think that once you've called your member of Congress, I think that's fine. Once. Hassan, what are you thinking?
I'd say once after breakfast and once after.
His mic was in, the mic's not on.
Mic's not on. Can we turn on his mic?
Yeah. Hello? Check one. Okay. Good question. I think definitely, make your phone call heard. We're going to get into some action steps in a bit that I think are going to really empower. I was kind of joking about before, after breakfast, after lunch, although I don't want to stop anybody that wants to do that. But we're going to get into, lobbying, drop-by visits, LTEs, all of that stuff is so great. Connecting with your local advocacy team and making sure that other people in your community are also doing the same. I think that's how we amplify this message and our power.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how many people in this room are a part of advocacy teams? Yes. How many brothers and sisters are part of Advocacy Corps that's in the space? Yes. So if you're not a part of advocacy teams or Advocacy Corps, it's a good time to get involved right now. It's a good time to join, because these are the powerful mechanisms to affect change and get stuff moved. So on that note, I'm going to end. But again, thank you all for inviting me into community. Thank you so much for all the hard work that you do. And again, anything that we can do to be supportive and support you all in fighting for peace, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Levita. So I want to take a couple of moments to hear from some of the folks who've been doing this work all around the country in their communities, both advocating for a ceasefire and connecting and taking action with their advocacy team. We have 4 folks, I think, who are joining us virtually on Zoom. We're going to really make sure that the Zoom folks are highlighted and centered in this work by having these folks call in from all the places that they're watching around the country and ask them to share a little bit about what they've been doing in their communities advocating for peace with FCNL. So first, I'm going to go to Kate Conway in Arizona. Kate, are you here on the line? Let's see. Let's see if Kate's with us.
Hello, I am here.
Hi, Kate. All right, we'll turn it over to you for a couple minutes to share what you all have been doing in Arizona.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to recognize my sister, Megan Klumps-McClung, who is there actually with you today from Wisconsin. Who got me involved in this work. And I also want to recognize Gretchen Reinhardt, who is also a member of my advocacy team in Arizona, and she took the train all the way out there to DC to be with you this week. So I want to thank Gretchen as well. Tim reached out to me, and I guess I feel humbled to be here because this is my first year of advocacy, but I'm going to tell you about our advocacy in August this year. So on August 9th, 3 representatives from the Arizona advocacy team gathered materials for drop-bys, and over the course of a week conducted drop-bys to all of the Phoenix area senators and representatives. And we want to note that we did not create the rice jar visual representation that we used. We used materials that were created by another FCNL chapter. And having these materials made the process quick and easy for us. So we want to thank and recognize those folks who created those materials as well. So Gretchen Reinhardt, my Arizona comrade, was an actual miracle. She drove all over the county to 8 visits, while Bill Ford attended several visits also. And the staffers we spoke with during the visits were interested to learn more about FCNL. That was important, and they seem impressed by the breadth of the national efforts. The staffers specifically said that the visuals that we provided, which was the rice jar and associated handouts, were impressive, and they promised to show them to the other members of their staff and also sent photos of those visuals that we provided to staffers in DC. Make relevant connections with the staffers by dog states for family, recreation, occupation, and goals. And we asked the staffers how long they've been working for the senator or representative. And we asked about what projects that they were currently working on. And I think it would also be helpful to ask about what they like to do in their free time, if they get any. And for those who are not native to the area, I think it's relevant to ask if they often get home to visit family or if they have plans for the holidays. I think it would also be valuable to ask which goals the senator or representative have currently that are particularly important in the coming months. And perhaps we could offer support to these initiatives if they align with our mission. So anyway, that was our experience, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this organization and also humbled to be speaking with you today. Thanks again.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kate. Okay, now I'm going to see if we have Barbara from Wisconsin, Barbara Markoff from Wisconsin, to share a story.
Here. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Barbara.
So, I think the theme of my sharing will be, if you feel stuck, try something different. So I am part of the Milwaukee advocacy team here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I'm also a co-coordinator, a co-state coordinator with Janet Cheney, who's on in this meeting also. Our team over this year and part of last year were very frustrated because our letters to the editor were not getting published. And we kept trying, and we felt like we had enough letters submitted that we should have been published at least once. So I had learned that our ideas page editor, that's the part of our newspaper in the Journal Sentinel in Milwaukee, where they run op-eds and letters to the editor and opinion pieces. So I thought, he's new to Milwaukee. He's not to blame, really, for our having not been published. Let's see if we can start fresh with him. So I asked him if he would meet with us, and fairly readily, he agreed to come from Oshkosh, Wisconsin, to drive down to Milwaukee to meet with 3 of our advocacy team members. It was a 30-minute meeting. It was short, but it was extremely helpful. And it was really about learning about him personally, and also getting some advice from him, sharing our frustration about never getting published, telling him about FCNL, telling him about the peace building funds and the focus of our advocacy and our need to want to, help getting the word out in our greater community. So he gave us some good advice. We learned about his priorities, which is one of them is to focus on local Milwaukee greater area and Wisconsin issues. We understood that. But he also said he likes editorials or letters to the editor that give solutions, substantiate their evidence, make their case, and point to things people can do once they read the editorial, maybe an idea of what they can do about it. The other thing he shared with us is the reason he wasn't printing as many letters to the editor is because there is now competition with so many people airing their opinions on social media. So he has reduced the letters to the editor. That said, he then said to us, why don't you submit an op-ed piece? And that was more than we could have ever hoped for, that he would even suggest that. So we went ahead, and I want to give a shout out to someone also in this meeting, Tim McHugh. He works in public relations at the national staff. We drafted it. He helped us rewrite some really good writing, connected all the pieces that we wanted, and we submitted it. And we actually didn't think it would get published, but I'm here to share the good news that I got the word from this editor just a few days ago that they are publishing it. They want a photo. They want to about it. So it will be published shortly. And we're really happy about that. But what I really want to say is, even though we went into this meeting with this editor with the sole idea of getting more letters to the editor published, what we really realized, it was more like a lobby visit. We were also there to form a new relationship that could stand the next years ahead as he continues in that role. So we knew that was as important as the outcome. Happy to say we got both. We got a relationship and we have the outcome we were hoping for. So I want to encourage all of you to consider writing these letters. And if you get stuck or feel discouraged, you've got a wonderful partnership with your FCNL staff. They're great. They're there to help in any way possible. And consider, if you do think it would benefit you to form a relationship with your key editor, give it a try. It can't hurt.
Thank you, Barbara.
Story.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Barbara. All right, let's see if our friend Tayaba in South Carolina is here. Tayaba, are you here on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much. And I see Grace, who's part of our advocacy team, who's on as well. And if I missed anybody, I wanted to make sure and thank our wonderful, wonderful, amazing team over here, Grace, Priscilla, Carol, Lori, Beth, and our greater team as well. Some of the work that we've been doing for Ceasefire is we've been attending rallies, we've been calling our Congress people, doing in-person visits, doing virtual visits, building relationships with our staff as well. And to me, what it means to be part of the advocacy team is just how invaluable this relationship is. We've worked together for about 2 years now, starting from advocacy for Yemen to end the blockade on Yemen and to not send as many weapons to Saudi Arabia, through SFOPs and now for ceasefire and resolving the root causes. And advocating together in the last few years, I feel like we've built such a strong bond as a team that when the war broke out again in Israel and Palestine, I know I personally just felt this overwhelming grief, isolation, a fear of what atrocities would come, and a hopelessness. But then reaching out to the team, it was like right away we galvanized around learning more together, trying to understand everything that was happening, as well as trying to come together to stop the bloodshed that we knew would be coming. And often it felt just like if we could talk to each other, it was such a solace. It kept us all going and kept the strength going. And then the most inspiring part of this is that the threads, I feel, are all connected. About a year ago, we reached out to Sarah and Ursula and the team just to see, when we were working on SFOPs, was there any work, because I know I personally was very aware of what needed to be done in Palestine and Israel, and wanted to see, like, is there anything in the SFOPs initiatives that had been funded through our SFOPs? And they actually shared with me the story of a group called Our Pain is Our Power. And that group is now at the Parents Circle. And learning more about them and the work that they've done, they're bereaved parents of Israelis and Palestinians who have been killed. And they're coming together. And learning their stories helped us have a solution that we can give to our representatives to show them a way forward. And part of our advocacy is also building this network. So as we work together, we're meeting more people who are so powerful in their knowledge, in their message, that I feel like that's the biggest thing that I've gained from part of this advocacy work. The realization that all these messages, from Yemen to atrocities prevention, complex crises, all of these are connected, and they all reinforce our work and the need for us to keep working for justice and peace.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tayaba. We have one more amazing story, and then we're going to turn it over to Hassan and another special guest who's here with us to talk about how we can advocate for a ceasefire in the coming weeks and months. So I'm going to see if Logan Jimenez in Iowa can unmute and share his story.
Hello, friends. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here with you all. Wish I could be there in person. As Sarah said, I'm on the Western Iowa team, the advocacy team. My faith brought me to FCNL. I believe we are all called to stand with the oppressed. And FCNL gives me that structure. They give me that support. And if you look around the room, you have all these beautiful advocates, staff, volunteers around you. And that's such a small part of FCNL. There's thousands of more people, all around the country. And to be able to network with them, FCNL is not just one weekend. It's not just annual meeting. Take advantage of all these incredible people that are in your life through FCNL, because you can do good work, not just lobbying, but networking. In May, I got a call from a friend who works down in Texas with immigration about a family of Afghans who were in detention in California, who had fled the Taliban. The one girl was a reporter, and they were at the end of their rope. They had no sponsors. They were approaching their last court case. And I called a friend who works for FCNL, and within hours, he was on making network calls, figuring out a way to get them out. We had them sponsored, out of detention, and in Des Moines, Iowa, I think in 72 hours. It was incredible. And so, yeah, I put him on the spot. If Stephen's there, give Stephen a giant round of applause. But so there's more than just lobbying. You can make those beautiful connections. And I am so excited. Our Western Iowa team is growing quite quickly, I think. And with everything going in Gaza, our folks in District 4, which is Zach Nunn's district, I think really stepped into gear. And myself and another team member, Corey Susukul, decided to make a giant necklace with a bead representing every life lost. And I know you can see it on the Mobilize, and on the FCNL Facebook and Instagram page, we put together over 10,000 beads. And we shared it with Representative Nunn's staff, Senator Ernst, and Senator Grassley. And normally when you meet with staff, they're not going to go call their boss with every detail of what just happened. You know, they may forward your information to the person who handles, you know, whatever department, the legislative department, things like that. Or I know Zach Nunn's staff, they do a weekly newsletter of all the meetings they had that week and kind of the basics. 2 of those 3 staff members took pictures of that necklace and he texted or emailed that member of Congress directly during that meeting and makes an impact. Be creative, folks. And I want to thank you guys. Thank you. These beads here are all the lives lost since we made that necklace a little over a week ago.
Oh.
Every bead is a life. And another one of our members, Linnea, is working on printing a list of every name lost in this conflict to go with the beads. And we're making a second set, one that will stay in Des Moines around Iowa to go to churches, public events like that to raise awareness. And then we're working on the second set right now, and we're going to make it available to any advocacy team who, if you don't have the time to bead 11, 12,000 beads together and you want to use it, find me on Mobilize. I will put my contact information in the chat. We just ask that you cover the shipping and we will mail it out to you guys. But thank you all for the wonderful work you're doing. Keep it up. Every one of you is an inspiration to me every day. See you on Mobilize, hopefully. If you're not on there, get on there.
Oh my God.
These are awesome.
Thank you so much, Logan. And if you haven't seen the advocacy team's collage table in the hallway for those here in DC, there are photos of Logan with the necklace in the congressional office in that collage. And if you're wondering about Mobilize, Mobilize is the digital platform that advocacy team members use to communicate with each other and share articles and stories and photos and messages. And a huge shout out to Tim Heichman, who has gotten almost 1,000 people on Mobilize in like 9 months. Woo! Tim. Okay, so now I want to turn it over to Hassan El-Tayeb, who many of you know, our lead lobbyist on Middle East policy and organizer. And Hassan is going to talk to us about the urgency of advocating for a ceasefire in the coming weeks and months, in addition to connecting with advocacy teams. And he's also going to introduce a very special guest who's here with us to talk about the urgency of a ceasefire. So Hassan, over to you.
Wow, really inspiring advocacy teams we have. And great, just such a great conference that we're having right now. You all having fun? Okay, cool. So we are going to talk a little bit about the actions we have around ceasefire that we're doing till the end of the year. I know many people have already jumped on that, but in December, we're going to double down. I just heard, we've got Rep. Ballant on. Last night, Rep. Vasquez from New Mexico jumped on the ceasefire train, and we just keep building momentum. It really is a testament to our collective power, not just at FCNL, but across the country, with so many different movement leaders. So what are we going to be doing in December? We're going to be lobbying. We are going to be doing drop-by visits, bringing the leave behind that we have on the FCNL website, calling our members to publicly support ceasefire. We're going to be doing LTEs, making sure we heard just a great story about publishing letters to the editor, which was so inspiring. And then we would love I know there's so many people here are connected with their local advocacy teams, but we want as many people joining our advocacy team network and participating with us and making sure that the message is heard. And I've been hearing staff that they're getting it's 10-1 right now in most of the offices, calls for ceasefire versus not. And, right? quick question. How many people were here last night for our ceasefire panel? Okay, great. So this might not be, you might have already heard this, but just quickly to go over FCNL's position, we condemn all violence against civilians, whether they're Israelis or Palestinians. We have to condemn violence. And we've been doing that since day one. We are publicly calling for a ceasefire, de-escalation, restraint, and respect for international law. We are calling for unfettered humanitarian access to all parts of the Gaza Strip. Are you with me? Okay. So why are we doing that? My good friend Ahmed Mansour is here, right here, a Palestinian from Gaza, and an amazing filmmaker, and he cooked dinner for me last week, so he's a really great cook, too. But why are we doing this? He's going to get into that, but this is why FCNL is doing this. We want a ceasefire to protect civilians, including 1 million children in Gaza. We want a ceasefire to bring home the hostages. We want a ceasefire to de-escalate the conflicts all over the Middle East, in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, in Yemen, in Iran, and in the West Bank, and in Gaza. We want a ceasefire to stop the spread of hate, anti-Semitism, anti-Arab racism, and Islamophobia. We want a ceasefire ultimately to stop the cycles of violence that have been going on for decades at this point. And once we get a ceasefire, then we can start hopefully working on the root causes that brought us to this moment, which include systemic oppression, a military occupation, and a 16-year blockade of Gaza. So with that, are you all ready to take some action with us? Woo! And last thing I'll just say is that we truly are at a precipice, a turning point in history. You know, the world's never going to be the same after October 7. We know that. And we have, with every great crisis comes a huge opportunity. And the opportunity is that we have the chance to build the biggest anti-war movement in a generation. So let's do that. And Ahmed, come on up. Tell us your story, man. Come and have a seat.
Give it up for Hassan.
Woo!
Assalamu alaikum jami'an. Something with the energy here that makes me just want to look at the eyes of everyone to connect in a deeper level before. Oh, do you hear me now? Perfect. I was talking about the energy in the room. I'm sure it comes out of the faith that you all bring here. If I may start with one story that started on November 1st. There was a very important occasion on November 1st. Do we all know what it was? Besides it was my birthday, it was All Saints' Day. So every Saints' Day, for the last 8 years since I left Gaza, I call my family to wish me happy birthday. I called this November 1st and my father picked up the phone and there was a silence on the line. I said, "Father, are you okay?" He said, "None of us is okay." He said that last night, 12:30 in the night, the IDF called the entire neighborhood to evacuate because they wanted to wipe it out according to their language. So my father, my mother, my brothers, my sisters-in-laws, and other 3 families who are evacuating at our home from the north stormed out, not taking anything with them except the clothes on them. So they scattered all over the middle area, the Maghazi refugee camp, and al-Braj, and Nusayrat. 5 days ago, I managed to get hold of my father, and he told me, I am back home. I really didn't know what to say, because I'm here and they're there. And we all know that there is not a safe place in Gaza now. So I tried to get him to say more. I said how my mom and my sister-in-laws and my brothers feel about that. He said, Ahmed, your grandfather, my father's father, stayed his entire life regretting the day he left his village in 1948, when the Zionist gangs came and massacred the villagers outside Jerusalem. He said, I don't want to be another image of your grandfather. If I may die, I may die at my home. This is one story out of 2 million stories in the Gaza Strip as we speak. Yes, a ceasefire is what we want now. As Brother Hassan, I'm sure, talked in details last night about it and what everyone shared. But we all have to know that the children that are now dying at Al-Shifa Hospital, they're not dying because there is not enough water or there's no fuel to operate the hospitals or because the border is closed or because there are hostages in Gaza. They are dying because they do not have rights. When we talk about Israel, the conversation is always about their right to exist, their right to defend themselves, their right to immigrate and do aliyah. Their right, their right, their right. But when we talk about Palestine, the context in which we talk about it is needs, humanitarian. That's the reason that after 75 years, we are witnessing a genocide unfolding in front of our eyes, because the conversation has never been about the rights of the Palestinian people. So, what's the immediate thing that we are calling for now? Is ceasefire. But some of us have to work on the rights frame of work. Because if we expect that Israel would stop the genocide, we would be mistaken. The only one who could stop this insanity is you, the international community. You know why? Because we all helped Israel to exist. The British handed the Mandate Palestine to Israel. And if I may quote one item of the Balfour Declaration, it says clearly that it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the rights of the existing communities in Palestine. And the same item was copied in the Israeli Constitution, that nothing shall may prejudice against the rights of the existing communities in Palestine. So, this is the time. This is the opportunity where we can break the vicious circle that started in 1948 for Palestine generally, and the circle that started 16 years ago in Gaza specifically. I lived the 2008 war. And I was watching from Gaza the international community calling for a ceasefire and humanitarian aid. Some countries were talking about rights, self-determination for the Palestinian people, but unfortunately, those countries who have veto, they always stand in the way. 2012, same story. 2014, same story. 2021, 2022. I think it's now enough to relive this episode over and over and over. Do you all think it's enough? Finally, I want to thank Hassan and Sister Sarah for all the work they've been doing and for providing us with space and open arm and hug to allow us to think outside the box. So, inshallah, you know, as JFK said, those who make peaceful revolutions impossible make violent revolution inevitable. We don't want to get there. We know how angry the streets are, right? So before it's too late, the enlightened elite of this society are better to take the lead in making and inserting the peaceful revolution we all want. We all want to pray in Jerusalem freely without the walls of hate. Do you want to do that? So let's make it a wish, inshallah, for next year. If not the next year, the year after. If not the year after, the year after. Because we cannot afford to allow a racist bigot like Netanyahu to cause a violent revolution that will burn everything. Thank you so much.
Ahmed, thank you so much. So grateful for you. And he's an amazing filmmaker and is really working hard to make sure that Arab Americans get out to vote. And I think that's a sleeping giant in this country. And that is a huge part of the solution here. I'm going to hand it to Sarah to tell us a little bit how we can live out that testimony and work on getting this ceasefire done.
Okay, so I know that we're coming up right to our time for lunch, but I just want to thank Ahmed again and all of our folks on Zoom for sharing some of the stories, and especially this testimony from Gaza that really bring all of us into this peace work and keep us going and remind us what we're advocating for. So another round of applause, please. Okay. Before we go to lunch, we've got two important things to do. As Hassan starts preparing to play a little music before we close, I have an important announcement for folks who are either currently part of the FCNL advocacy teams or who may be inspired to connect with the advocacy teams going forward from this event. As many of you know, the advocacy teams work on one legislative campaign every calendar year. We've worked on, let's see, repealing the 2002 Iraq AUMF. We've worked on ending U.S. support for the Saudi-led war in Yemen. This year, we've been working to support peace-building appropriations. But one of the things that Ahmed really spoke about just now was some of the underlying causes that lead to militarism and violence and U.S.-led wars around the world. So after conducting a listening session with advocacy team members from across the country, the thing that we're going to be focusing on in 2024 is reducing and challenging U.S. military spending through the Pentagon budget. And so we hope that you'll join us in this campaign. And we are going to be sharing more about this on our December national call for advocacy team folks who want to hear a little more about how we're going to approach this work. But we think that this is a really important step to talk about the rest of the pie that Ursula showed us on the first day of QPPI, the tiny sliver, or if you've seen the teeny tiny piece of a jelly bean in the hallway that goes towards peace building, and the enormous amount of the pie that goes towards war and militarism in the Pentagon budget. So we want to start addressing some of these deeper factors, deeper causes that lead to US war and militarism around the world. So with that, thank you all so much. I'm going to turn it to Hassan to close us out with a song, and then I think we're going to have a few announcements from our MCs before we break for lunch. So Hassan, close us out.
All righty. I'm not doing this on my own, though. I think you all have to join. This is a tune written by a guy from Boston called Sean Staples, and I love it. It's called I Want to Be Ready. I'm going to teach you the chorus, and maybe y'all can join in. Yes, I want to be ready. I want to be ready. I want to be ready when the joy comes back to me. You guys want to try? Yes, I want to be ready. I want to be ready. I want to be ready when the joy comes back to me. Yes, I want to be ready. I want to be ready. I want to be ready when the joy comes back to me. I was surrounded by the midnight. Surrounded by the midnight. Surrounded by the midnight, but I'm getting lighter every day. And yes, I want to be ready. Come on, louder. I want to be ready. I want to be ready when the joy comes back to me. I was tied to the ground. I was tied to the ground. I was tied to the ground, but I'm getting lighter every day. And yes, I want to be ready. I want to be ready. I want to be ready when the joy comes back to me. I was surrounded by the midnight. Surrounded by the midnight, surrounded by the midnight, but I'm getting lighter every day, and yes, I wanna be ready. I wanna be ready. I wanna be ready, but I'm getting, yes, I wanna be ready. I wanna be ready. I wanna be ready when the joy comes back to me. Thanks, y'all. Hey, appreciate everybody here. Thank you so much for your advocacy. This is great. And thanks for letting me play when we're done with awards, let's just this is what we really should be doing, so.
Can we have one more round of applause for Hassan's talent? And with that beautiful music, QPPI 2023 has come to a close. Thank you all truly so much for all you have done, the space you have held for one another and for our guests, and for the stories that you've shared with each other. All of this has helped push us closer to that world that we seek, a more just, peaceful, and sustainable world for all. Of course, the work's not over yet. We hope everyone here will continue their advocacy with the avenues that have been outlined during this fantastic closing plenary. And if you're leaving today or are only an attendee for QPPI, we ask that you take the time to fill out our event evaluation form. You can find it at fcnl.org/AM survey. That's fcnl.org/AM survey. Or you can scan the QR code that I believe will pop up on the screen presently. I'm going to hand it off to Susan, who will facilitate our transition into annual meeting.
Thank you all. And as Mon just said, with the close of QPPI comes another exciting event, and that will be FCNL's annual meeting. We're so excited for the General Committee to come together to affirm, strengthen, and grow this work for peace, grounded in worship and the movement of the Spirit. But first, we have some time for community and for refueling. There will be affinity groups online and in person, as well as lunch served for those at the hotel. Quick note, we're running a little bit behind, but we wanted to say that the rooms are open starting now for the affinity groups, with programming starting at 1:30 p.m. and finishing off by 2:15 p.m. So thank you again to all of the advocates joining from across the country over Zoom, from joining here in DC. We're so grateful for you all, and thank you.